The most astonishing tale ever breathed did not begin with a trumpet, nor a clash of heroes, nor a myth spun by poets. It began with stillness, with a hush that hovered, like breath before words. The deep was formless void, a silent abyss beneath a shroud of darkness. But even then, something waited. The Spirit of God moved over the waters, not as wind, not as storm, but as presence. And then, a voice, not thunder, but command. Let there be light. The silence broke. Darkness recoiled, and light pure and piercing dawned where none had ever been. It did not ask permission. It did not wait. It simply was. Light. Good. A world summoned from nothing. By a word. By intention. By love cloaked in power. On the first day, light, then sky, then sea land, from ocean seed, from soil, sun and moon, beasts of the field, birds of the air, and then us, not spoken into being like the rest, but formed by hands unseen. Dust lifted, shaped into form, kissed by breath, and man awoke. He opened his eyes not in wonder, but in belonging. He was home before he knew the word for home. And then a counterpart, not crafted from dust, but drawn from his side. Bone of bone, flesh of flesh, joy meeting joy. She was not his servant, but his echo. And the garden, oh the garden, it was not just beautiful, it was sanctuary. A temple without walls where every leaf whispered glory and every river flowed with purpose. God walked there, not in thunder, but in the cool of the day. And man walked with him. No veil, no fear, no shame. But in that perfect place, choice was planted. A tree standing silent in the center. Not to tempt, but to trust. And a whisper coiled around a question. Did God really say? It was not the bite that broke the world. It was the belief that God was withholding something good. And when the fruit was taken, innocence fell. Eyes opened, but not to glory, to shame. They hid from the one who made them, covered what was once crowned. And the garden grieved. Yet even in exile, grace stirred. A promise, soft as dawn, one will come. From her, a seed, a son. He will bruise the serpent, and though wounded, he will win. This is not just a story. This is the marrow of meaning, the root of all redemption, the ache behind our questions, the echo in every longing. Genesis is not past, it is present. It is the rhythm in your breath, the dust in your bones, the hunger in your soul for something lost and someone near. You who search the silence, who wonder where light begins, listen. The voice still speaks. The same that split the darkness, the same that called you good. Let the breath return to the dust. Let the exile hear of home. Let the soul remember its shape. Like if your heart has ever yearned for a garden you never walked. Comment if your life carries echoes of something sacred you cannot name. Share this if you know someone whose spirit still reaches toward the light. And subscribe, not to a channel but to a journey, a return to the first word. The story begins again. In the beginning, not of time but of telling, the breath of God moved across the dark. There was no sound. No color, no form, only the deep, a weightless void as if even space had not yet learned to stretch. The Hebrew calls it tohu vavohu, formless, empty, a hush without a heartbeat, a silence unbroken until God spoke, not in rage, not in battle, but with intention. Let there be light. No sun yet burned, no moon yet glowed, no stars to scatter silver. Yet light answered the call. Like a river bursting from hidden springs, it spread, brilliant, unfiltered, unshaped. The dark did not resist. It simply withdrew, not banished, but placed. And God saw the light, that it was good. He named the light day and the darkness night, not as rivals, but as rhythm. Evening came, morning followed. Day 1. Yet the world was still chaos clothed in potential. Light could not yet touch form, for form had not yet risen. So the breath spoke again. Let there be a vault between the waters, to separate water from water. And it was so. The waters above lifted, a veil suspended by unseen hands. The waters below held fast waiting. Between them space stretched, not barren, but expectant. The vault, the expanse, the dome. He called it heaven. This was not myth where gods battle for sky. This was order, deliberate, divine. Evening came, morning followed. Day 2. Still the waters below stirred. They had not yet shown what they could yield. Then came the third command. Let the waters under the sky be gathered to one place, and let dry ground appear. Not built, but summoned, not fought for, but revealed. The waters pulled back, and earth rose, shining with dew fresh from the mouth of God. Mountains, valleys, ridges, plains. Soil, waiting for seed. Stone waiting for root, and God called the dry ground earth. The gathered waters he named seas, and he saw that it was good. But earth must not be still. So he spoke again. Let the land produce vegetation. At his word the silence broke beneath the surface. Seeds unseen burst with purpose. Shoots pressed upward, leaves unfurled in light that had no source. Grasses waved without wind, vines clung without fences. Fruit swelled without season, and each bore seed, each according to its kind. Order, not randomness. Design, not chance. An ecosystem of obedience. A choreography of green. The world was becoming itself, layer by layer, word by word. And God saw that it was good. Evening came, morning followed. Day 3. What had been chaos was now cadence. A song rising in 3 measures. From light to sky to land. From speech to structure to life. And still, it was only beginning. For now the world had a canvas, but no sun to warm it, no stars to crown it, no measure for season or time. But that would come, and then, on the 4th day, God turned to the sky. Not the heavens of spirit, but the heavens of sight. The dome that stretched over the earth now called to carry light. Let there be lights in the vault of the heavens to separate the day from the night, to mark seasons, days, and years. And it was so. This light was different. The first light had pierced darkness, but now came the rulers of time. The sun, great golden burning with fierce appointment. Not worshipped, not adored, but placed. It was given rule over the day. Its rays like scepters marked the hours. Its rising declared morning, its setting invited evening. And the moon, gentle silver, born to rule the night. It borrowed no pride. It shimmered with humility. Its pale face drifted through tides, keeping watch while the world slept. And the stars, countless scattered, each lit with purpose, not random, not silent. They were the punctuation marks of the sky, tiny flames whispering wonder. He placed them in the vault of the heavens to give light on the earth, to govern day and night, to separate light from darkness. And God saw that it was good. Evening came, morning followed. Day 4. The world now danced with light sun, chasing moon, chasing stars, seasons nested within the turning sky. But the earth was still quiet. Its oceans did not yet sing. Its skies had no wings. So God spoke again. Let the waters teem with living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the vault of the sky. And it was so. From the deep, Life burst. Waves swelled with motion. Schools of fish shimmered like liquid silver. Great sea beasts coiled in the trenches. Turtles, dolphins, leviathans. The sea was alive with breath and muscle. It teemed as commanded. It multiplied as blessed. And the sky, once empty and blue, now shimmered with wings. Birds darted, soared, circled. Some glided in silence. Others sang to the morning. Every color danced above the trees, crimson, sapphire, ivory, gold. Wings beat to the rhythm of joy. Flight, a gift not of necessity but of delight. And God blessed them. Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the waters in the seas, let the birds multiply on the earth. Not merely made, but blessed. Given purpose, given song. Given the freedom to fill creation with movement and sound. Evening came, morning followed. Day 5. Now the sky was marked. The waters were alive. The air trembled with wings, the seas roared with life. And all of it, every star, every stream, every feathered hymn, began in a word. And then came the 6th day. The morning broke not in silence, but in waiting. The earth, now clothed in light, framed by sky and sea, was ready for breath. God spoke again. Let the land produce living creatures according to their kinds. And it was so. From soil sprang sinew, from dust muscle and hide. The ground stirred with motion, not wild, but purposeful. Hooves struck dry earth, claws gripped stone, eyes blinked into morning. Cattle walked the plains, oxen heavy with power. Lions crouched in shade muscles, coiled like rivers. Wolves howled into wind, deer stepped soft through ferns. Every beast, great and small, each after its kind, the world breathed wild. God saw that it was good, but it was not yet complete. Creation had rhythm, but no reflection. It had voice, but not yet soul. So the divine whispered something new, a counsel not to wind or water, but within himself. Let us make man in our image after our likeness. Not shouted, not thundered, but spoken with sacred intimacy. And from the dust, he formed him. Not merely a creature, but an echo. Not only body, but bearer of glory. He shaped the man with unseen hands, rib, spine, brow, breath. And he breathed, not wind, but spirit. The man became a living soul. Not instinct, not pattern, but choice, awareness, hunger for the divine. And from the man he drew forth woman. Not as afterthought, but as answer. Bone of bone, flesh of flesh. Not beneath, but beside. And God blessed them. Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, every living thing that moves on the ground. Dominion, not domination. Stewardship, not tyranny. They were not gods, but image-bearers. Reflections of light, mirrors of mercy. And God saw all that he had made, and behold, it was very good. Not just good like the light or the sea or the stars, but very good. Creation had found its crown. Evening came, morning followed. Day 6, and then the 7th. But no word of command came. No creature rose. No sun was summoned. God rested, not from weariness, but to consecrate stillness. The work was finished. The world stood complete. He blessed the 7th day and made it holy. A rhythm was set. 6 of labor, 1 of rest. And so the first week ended, not in exhaustion, but in peace. A temple of time was formed, a sanctuary not of stone, but of silence. Thus the heavens and the earth were completed in all their vast array. And the story of creation was not just told. It was lived. It was sung. It was breathed. In beginning, the world God also began us. From word to wind, from soil to soul, from chaos to covenant. The world was good. The rest was holy. And the story had only just begun. For in the heart of paradise, beneath canopies of fruit and flowing water, two souls walked in light. Not as wanderers, but as children, not as rulers, but as those who were known fully and without fear. God walked with them in the cool of the day. His voice was not thunder, it was familiarity, companionship. The garden pulsed with presence, trees dripping with promise, rivers gleaming with joy, air heavy with peace. They lacked nothing. And yet, in the very center stood a tree. It did not threaten, it did not tempt, it simply stood. Silent, set apart a choice. For love is not love if it is not free. And so began the great trembling of history, a question whispered by a serpent, a silence too long, a reach too far. Let us return now to the garden, to the first bite, to the fracture beneath the beauty. This is the fall, this is the ache, this is where the exile begins. The man had everything, but more than that, he lacked nothing. Eden was not earned, it was gifted. A sanctuary wrapped in soil and sunlight, a song without sorrow. The rivers flowed like living threads, weaving gold through the land. Trees booed with fruit that never soured. The wind knew no fury. The animals bore no fear. The man walked through it all and named each beast not to rule it, but to recognize it. Lion, proud and still. Dove, soft with peace. Ant, humble in labor. Each received its name like a whisper of its purpose. And yet, for all the motion, for all the majesty, something was missing. It was not good for man to be alone. So God gave him sleep. Not death, but a sacred pause, a hush upon the dust. And from his side, not his head, not his heel, from his ribs near his heart, God shaped woman. Not clay, but communion. When the man awoke, he did not marvel. He remembered, as if she had always been waiting to be revealed. Bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh. And the garden grew fuller, not with sound, but with harmony. They were naked, but there was no shame. Not because they were blind, but because they were whole. There was no need to hide what was made in glory. No fear of being seen. The man and the woman walked with God. Not above him, not beneath him, but beside him. In the cool of the day, the Lord came close. He was not thunder. He was not fire. He was familiar. The voice that had made the stars now spoke among trees. And in the center of the garden, two trees stood. One was life. Its roots reached into eternity. Its fruit gleamed with a sweetness beyond description. The other was the knowledge of good and evil. Not poisoned, not cursed, but placed, set apart, sacred. God gave a boundary, not a barrier, but a blessing. You may freely eat from every tree in the garden, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat. For in the day you eat of it, you shall surely die. It was not a threat. It was truth. And truth, even when unwelcome, is still holy. They did not hunger. They did not lack. The garden was more than enough. But in silence, seeds of doubt can find soil. It began, not with a roar, but with a whisper. A serpent, crafty, coiled, watching. He did not shout. He questioned. Did God really say? Not an accusation, just a bend in the words, a subtle curve that made certainty wobble. The woman paused. We may eat of the fruit of the trees in the garden, but God said, You shall not eat of the fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden, nor shall you touch it lest you die. Ah, but he had her now. You will not surely die. His voice was soft, but it rang with venom. God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened. You will be like God. He did not deny the command. He denied its goodness. He painted obedience as limitation, trust as bondage. And the woman saw the fruit, not with hunger, but with longing. It was pleasing to the eye. It looked like wisdom. It promised something more, and she reached. The bite was small. The echo, eternal. She gave to her husband, and he ate, not deceived, not dragged, but silent and complicit. And their eyes were opened, but not to glory, not to wisdom, to shame. They saw their nakedness not as beauty, but as blame. They sewed fig leaves, the first human invention, a covering, a wall, a hiding place. And when they heard the sound of the Lord walking in the garden, they fled. The voice they once ran toward, they now ran from. They hid among the trees they had once named. And God called out, "Where are you?" It was not for his knowledge. It was for theirs. Who told you? You were naked. The wound was not in the fruit. It was in the fracture. A trust broken. A glory veiled. An innocence lost. And in that moment, paradise held its breath. Where are you? The voice was not thunder. It did not crush. It called. A question wrapped in mercy. A summons, not a sentence. And the man replied, not with worship, but with fear. I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid. Because I was naked, so I hid. Fear, a stranger in Eden. Shame, a new and bitter taste. Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree I commanded you not to eat from? And the man, formed from dust and breath, who had once sung over his bride, now turned his voice into blame. The woman whom you gave me, she gave me the fruit, and I ate. Not confession, just a shift of weight, a passing of burden. So God turned to the woman. What is this you have done? And she, who once walked in a joy, now spoke in sorrow. The serpent deceived me, and I ate. No one stood innocent, not even the silence. And then the Lord spoke, not in rage but in rhythm, each word cut clean, truth with no shadow. To the serpent first, because you have done this, cursed are you above all livestock and all wild animals. On your belly you shall go, and dust you shall eat all the days of your life. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed. He will bruise your head, and you will bruise his heel. A curse and a prophecy, a wound and a whisper of healing. The serpent would strike, but one would come to strike back. From the womb of the deceived would rise the one who would redeem. And to the woman, I will greatly multiply your pain in childbearing. In pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. Joy would now be mingled with sorrow. Life would be born through ache. The unity once danced in balance, now skewed by the echo of rebellion. And to the man, because you listened to the voice of your wife and ate from the tree, which I commanded you not to eat. Cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles it will bring forth. By the sweat of your brow you shall eat bread until you return to the ground. For dust you are, and to dust you shall return. And the silence fell heavy. Creation, once a gift, was now a battleground. Man and woman, once co-heirs of Eden, now stood in exile, even before they stepped beyond the gate. But before judgment was finished, God did something unexpected. He made garments of skin for the man and his wife. He clothed them, not with fig leaves, but with covering of sacrifice. The first death, not of man, but of innocence. Blood had touched the ground. The price of mercy foreshadowed in skin. Then the Lord said, "The man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. Now he must not reach out his hand and take also from the tree of life, and eat and live forever." So the Lord God banished him from the garden. Banished, not because he hated, but because eternity in exile would be cruelty beyond curse. He placed cherubim and a flaming sword to guard the way to the tree of life. The garden, once open and intimate, was now closed and guarded. And man, with dust still clinging to his feet, walked away from paradise. Not destroyed, but disoriented. Not abandoned, but aching. And yet, Within the judgment, a thread of grace, a promise, a seed, a savior yet to come. The story of sin had begun, but so had the story of redemption. And so, they stepped outside the garden. No chariot of fire, no storm, just dust beneath their feet. The same dust from which they were formed, now the path of their exile. East of Eden, where light still reached but presence did not walk as it once had. The wind no longer sang with unbroken joy. The trees bore fruit, but also thorns. The ground received them, but it did not embrace. And the man, once a gardener of paradise, became a tiller of hard soil. He dug not for beauty, but for survival. The woman, once born in harmony, now carried life through pain. Yet still, they remembered. They remembered the sound of God's footsteps in the garden. They remembered the taste of fruit that needed no toil. They remembered what it meant to be unafraid. And in the quiet moments beneath stars now distant, they remembered the promise. The seed of the woman would crush the serpent's head. It was a thread, thin as breath, but strong enough to carry hope. They held each other not just for warmth, but for comfort. Not just to fill the night, but to resist forgetting. The garden was behind them. The sword still flamed at its gate, but something stirred within them. The first pulse of faith. They built shelter. They found water. They learned how to bleed and still live. They were not cast into death. They were cast into waiting. For one would come, not from the sky, but from the womb, not with a sword, but with sandals, not to speak from thunder, but to walk with dust on his feet. The man named his wife Eve, because she would be the mother of all the living. Even in exile, he spoke life. Even in sorrow, he named hope. And though the way back to Eden was barred, the way forward was not. A lamb would one day be slain. A tree would once more stand at the center, and the curse would one day be reversed. But for now, they walked east, away from paradise, toward a world that would hunger for it again. They bore children. They tilled ground. They wept over death for the first time. And though no garden ever replaced the one they had lost, a seed had been planted in the soil of human longing, a promise pressed into the ache. And so the first chapter ends, not with a closed door, but with a waiting heart. The serpent had bruised the heel, but the story was not over. East of Eden, the ground remembered. It remembered footsteps that once danced, laughter that once echoed, names spoken with joy. Now it tasted sweat. Now it swallowed tears. From the dust, man had come, and to the dust, he now bent. But the story did not end in exile. It grew roots. It bore fruit. Children breathed hope, even in a broken world. They named the first Cain, a gift they said from the Lord. Then Abel, a breath, a vapor, yet one who would speak long after silence claimed him. 2 brothers, 2 offerings, 1 altar. But even as life bloomed, jealousy crouched. Even as the fields grew, a shadow stirred. Let us follow now the children of the dust to the first altar and the first murder. This is where brotherhood breaks. This is where blood cries out from the ground. Life had begun again. Not in paradise, but in pain. Yet even pain could birth promise. Eve held her son with trembling joy. I have gotten a man with the help of the Lord. She named him Cain, acquired, a gift from God even in exile. Then came Abel, a second son, a breath. His name meant vapor, a hint of how quickly beauty fades. The boys grew, and as they grew, so did the world. Cain worked the soil. He tilled with hands that bore the memory of dust. He carved rows into the ground, coaxing food from cursed earth. Abel watched the flocks. He wandered among lambs, listening to the silence between their bleats. He saw life born and life pass quietly. He learned to lead gently. 2 sons, 2 ways, 1 hope. In time, they each brought an offering to the Lord. Cain from the fruit of the ground, the harvest of his labor. Stalks, roots, grain, his hands full of toil. Abel from the firstborn of his flock. Fat portions, the richest, the best. Not leftovers, not abundance, but first and most. They laid their offerings. 2 altars, 2 flames. And the Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering. But on Cain he did not look with favor, not because he despised grain, but because he saw the heart. One gave out of trust, the other out of duty. One gave from joy, the other from resentment. And Cain was very angry. His face fell, not toward his brother, not yet, but toward God. The fire of his altar flickered, but the fire in his chest blazed. And the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. Its desire is for you, but you must rule over it. A warning, a mercy, a door still open. Sin is not yet your master, but it waits. It crouches, not with horns, but with hunger." Cain said nothing. He did not confess. He did not plead. He walked away. But something walked with him. A weight, a voice, a silence too loud. The field still grew with crops. The flock still grazed on hillside. But between the brothers, something had changed. One carried favor, the other, fury. And the earth, which had once held promise, now trembled beneath a coming crime. And Cain said to Abel, "Let us go out into the field." The words were simple, ordinary. But nothing was ordinary about that day. The field waited. The sun hung overhead without shadow. The ground felt warm. Too warm. Abel followed. Why wouldn't he? He did not see the storm behind his brother's eyes. He did not hear the silence that had swallowed Cain's soul. No animal stirred. No wind moved. The field, a place of growth of grain and green, would now drink what it had never known before. Cain rose against Abel his brother and killed him. No weapon is named, no struggle described. Only the act. One sentence. One shattering. The first death was not from nature. It came from a hand meant to bless. It was not survival. It was choice. The earth gasped, the dust recoiled, and then there was silence. No thunder, no fire, just a body in the field and a brother standing over it. What had he done? He looked at his hands, stained, not just with blood, but with a stain that would not wash. And then God spoke. "Where is Abel, your brother?" Cain answered, not with tears, not with trembling, but with distance. "I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper?" The question still haunts history. And the Lord said, "What have you done?" "The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." Not screams, not curses, but witness. Blood speaks. Innocence leaves a sound that the earth cannot silence. And now, you are cursed from the ground. It will no longer yield for you. You will be a fugitive, a wanderer on the earth. The ground which once grew Cain's harvest now bore his judgment. It would resist him, refuse him. And Cain, the one who had refused to listen, now pleaded, "My punishment is greater than I can bear. You have driven me from the land and from your presence. I will be hidden, a wanderer. And whoever finds me will kill me." Even in guilt, he feared judgment. Even as a killer, he feared being killed. But God, even in justice, was still merciful. Not vengeance, but a mark. Then the Lord put a mark on Cain, so that no one who found him would strike him down. It was not a brand of shame. It was a seal of restraint. So Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. East again, farther still, each step a reminder. The field was behind him, the altar broken, the voice of his brother still echoing in God's ears. But even in exile, Cain lived. He built cities, he fathered sons, he passed on more than blood. The line of Cain would fill the earth, but the echo of that first act never faded. The blood still cried, the soil still remembered, and the world now knew that sin was not a whisper, but a roar. Cain went out from the presence of the Lord, but he did not vanish. He built a city, not to honor God, but to quiet fear. He named it after his son, Enoch, a monument to memory, a mark against erasure. And so civilization began, not from peace, but from a fugitive's hands. From Cain came Irad, and from Irad Mehujael. The names multiplied, the faces blurred. But one name stood sharp, Lamech. He took 2 wives, Ada and Zillah, and to them he boasted, "I have killed a man for wounding me, a young man for striking me. If Cain is avenged 7 times, then Lamech 77. It was not confession, it was a song, a dark hymn of escalation. Where Cain had pleaded, Lamech proclaimed. Violence now had rhythm. Wrath now had poetry. The world once formed in breath and blessing now echoed with blood and pride. But east of that darkness, a seed stirred. Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son. She named him Seth, appointed, granted, placed. For she said, God has appointed me another offspring instead of Abel, for Cain killed him. And Seth grew, and he had a son Enosh. And it was in those days, when the world grew loud with vengeance and cities, that something quiet returned. Then people began to call on the name of the Lord. It was not Eden, but it was hope. Not all had forgotten, not all had surrendered to the dark. A whisper rose soft as dust on morning grass. The name of the Lord spoken again. Worship had survived the sword. And from that line, through centuries of waiting, through floods and famines, through kings and exiles, a child would one day be born. Not of Cain, but of covenant. Not of violence, but of peace. He would not strike down, but lift up. And his blood, when it touched the ground, would not cry out for justice, but for mercy. For now, the story rests in waiting. The shadow of Cain stretches long, but the seed of Seth grows quietly. And to those who listen, even now, the blood of Abel still speaks. But so does grace, so does promise, so does the one who calls us to remember, to return, to believe that even east of Eden, we are not alone. If these words stir something ancient in you, then walk with us. There are still stories to tell, still wounds to name, still light that breaks the ground. Subscribe to follow the journey. Like if you've ever felt the ache of exile, share this with someone whose heart still remembers Eden. Time passed, but time did not heal. Cities multiplied, so did corruption. The descendants of Cain built tools, towers, and bloodlines, but not altars. The earth filled with men, but emptied of reverence. Giants walked among them, mighty in strength, but hollow in soul. The thoughts of man turned inward and downward, and the Lord looked upon the world he had made, and what he saw was grief. Every inclination of the human heart was only evil all the time, and God was sorry he had made man on the earth. But one man still listened. One man still walked with God, Noah. Let us return now to the days before the rain, to a world swollen with sin and a boat built on obedience. This is the story of water and warning of wrath and rescue. This is the flood. The world was full, but not with light. It was full of men, but empty of awe. The beauty of Eden was now but a whisper carried in bloodlines too busy to listen. The descendants of Adam had multiplied. They built cities, they forged metal, they raised their names like towers into the sky. But beneath it all, violence grew roots. Men took what they desired, not just land, not just harvest, but each other. The strong consumed the weak, the loud silenced the just. Every thought, every motive, every heartbeat twisted inward. And God saw. He saw not just the actions, but the intentions. Every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. The Creator, whose voice once called light from darkness, now felt sorrow. Not weakness, not regret of wisdom, but grief. The Lord was sorry he had made man on the earth, and his heart was filled with pain. So he spoke, "I will blot out man whom I have created from the face of the land, man, beast, creeping thing, and birds of the sky. For I am grieved that I have made them." The world would be washed, not simply destroyed, but reset, undone, unmade. And yet, one man found favor in the eyes of the Lord: Noah. In a world of shadows, he walked in light, not by miracles, not by fire from heaven, but by obedience. Noah walked with God. He was blameless among his generation, not perfect, but faithful. And the Lord spoke again, this time to Noah, "The end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. Behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood, not a weapon, a vessel, not a temple, a boat, 300 cubits long, 50 wide, 30 high, rooms inside, a roof above, a door on the side. Make it with lower, middle, and upper decks. And I will bring flood waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh in which is the breath of life under heaven. Everything that is on the earth shall perish, but I will establish my covenant with you. You shall come into the ark, you, your sons, your wife, and your sons' wives with you. And of every living thing of all flesh you shall bring 2 of every sort into the ark, to keep them alive with you, male and female, birds, beasts, creeping things, each according to its kind. Also take every sort of food that is eaten and store it up." And Noah did all that God commanded him. No debate, no delay. He built, day after day, in a land where rain was a rumor. He measured wood for a storm he had never seen. He gathered food for mouths yet to be counted. He moved with patience while the world mocked him. For 100 years he obeyed. Each board nailed was an act of faith. Each joint fitted was a sermon to a world unwilling to repent. The ark rose slowly, a shadow on the horizon, a cradle of life amid a coming death. And Noah waited, not in idleness, but in reverence. For judgment was near. The sky still blue, the earth still dry, but the heavens had already begun to weigh heavy. Then the Lord said to Noah, "Enter the ark, you and all your household, for I have seen that you alone are righteous before me in this generation. Take with you 7 pairs of every clean animal, a male and its mate, and 2 of every unclean animal, a male and its mate. Also 7 pairs of every kind of bird, to keep their offspring alive on the face of all the earth. For in 7 days I will send rain on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. And every living thing that I have made, I will blot out from the face of the ground." Noah did all that the Lord commanded him. The ark stood waiting, a vessel of silence amid a world of noise. And then the animals came, not driven, not herded. They arrived 2 by 2, 7 by 7, as if called by something deeper than instinct. Lions and lambs, oxen and owls, foxes with their mates, eagles with wings tucked in reverence. The beasts did not roar, the birds did not sing. They entered as if they knew, as if they remembered Eden's ache and the storm ahead. Noah watched, his sons guided. The ark, once empty as a womb, now stirred with breath. And then the door, heavy, final. The Lord shut them in. Not Noah, not a man, but God himself. Mercy sealed them. Judgment stood outside. And on the 7th day, the sky broke. The fountains of the great deep burst forth. The windows of the heavens were opened. Rain, not drops but veils, not gentle but relentless. It fell not just from above, but surged from below. The earth, which once opened for seeds, now opened for sorrow. The ark rose. It did not sail. It was lifted. by hands unseen, by waves unmeasured. Mountains disappeared. Valleys became oceans. Men ran. They clawed at high places. They screamed the names of gods they had never worshipped. But the rain did not listen. It obeyed. 40 days and 40 nights. The sky did not tire. The waters did not pause. The trees that once reached upward now lay buried. Temples, towers, altars, gone beneath judgment. Only the ark remained. A cradle in chaos. A whisper in the storm. Inside, darkness, but not despair. Noah prayed. The beasts breathed. The world waited. Above them, clouds thick with wrath. Below them, a sea without shore. There was no more ground, no more division between land and deep. The earth had been unmade. And still, the ark held, because God remembered. He remembered the righteous. He remembered the covenant. He remembered what was worth saving. And so it floated, not toward a place, but toward a promise. A vessel of mercy amid an ocean of judgment. And the rain ceased, not with a trumpet, not with a shout, but with stillness. The sky, once cracked with fury, stood quiet. The fountains of the deep were shut. The windows of heaven closed. And the ark, still afloat, still sealed, rested. Upon the mountains of Ararat, the vessel came to settle, not by anchor, but by providence. The waters continued to recede. Day by day the world re-emerged, not as it was, but as it could be. Noah waited. He opened a window and sent forth a raven. It went to and fro, but never returned. Then he sent a dove. It found no place to land, only water everywhere. He waited 7 days more, then sent the dove again. This time, it returned. In its beak, an olive leaf freshly plucked. Life, renewal, a whisper from the land. He waited still. 7 more days. Then he sent the dove once more. It did not return. The earth was ready. And God spoke to Noah, "Come out of the ark, you and your wife, your sons and their wives. Bring out every living thing with you, so that they may swarm upon the earth, be fruitful and multiply." And Noah stepped out. The air smelled different, like silence, like memory, like promise. He looked up and the sky looked back, cleansed, emptied, waiting. The animals emerged blinking against light they hadn't seen in months. The lion stretched, the lamb wandered, the birds rose in spirals of praise. And Noah, before he built shelter, before he planted vine, built an altar. From clean animals and clean birds he offered a sacrifice. And the Lord smelled the pleasing aroma, not the scent of burning flesh, but of obedience, of reverence. And God said in his heart, "Never again will I curse the ground because of man, even though every inclination of the human heart is evil from youth. Never again will I strike down every living creature as I have done. As long as the earth endures, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease." Then God blessed it, Noah and his sons. "Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth." A new beginning, not Eden, but a covenant. And God said, "Behold, I establish my covenant with you, and with your descendants after you, and with every living creature. Never again shall all flesh be cut off by the waters of a flood. Never again shall there be a flood to destroy the earth." And God said, "This is the sign of the covenant I make between me and you and every living creature. I have set my bow in the clouds. And when I bring clouds over the earth, the bow shall be seen. And I will remember my covenant, the bow, not drawn in wrath, but hung in peace, not aimed at the earth, but arched toward heaven, a symbol not of weaponry, but of mercy, a rainbow, born from light and storm." And Noah saw it, a curve of color against the gray, a reminder judgment may come, but mercy follows. The world had been wiped clean, but not forgotten. The God who judged is the God who remembers. And so the ark became memory, the flood a boundary, and the covenant a bridge between heaven and earth, between judgment and grace, between man and God. The rainbow still hung where sky met silence, a bow resting in peace. The flood had passed, the world was cleansed, and man had begun again. They tilled soil, they raised flocks, they remembered the terror of water, the mercy of dry land. But memory fades, and fear can be buried beneath brick. Soon the children of men multiplied again, and in the plain of Shinar they gathered. Not to worship, not to recall the covenant, but to build. Let us make a name for ourselves, they said. Let us build a tower that reaches the heavens, so that we are not scattered over the face of the earth. From dust they had once been lifted. Now from dust they would try to rise on their own. Come now, let us look upon this tower, this monument to pride, this echo of Eden's first lie. Let us witness how the language of unity became the confusion of nations. Let us return to Babel. From the sons of Noah, nations were born. From the three, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the world was filled again. They moved across the land, spreading from high places to valleys, to rivers, to plains. And in time, they found Shinar, a plain wide and rich soil, soft for molding earth, ready for empire. There they settled. And they said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly." Stone was rare, but brick could be shaped, could be multiplied. They used brick for stone and bitumen for mortar. And then they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens. And let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered over the face of the whole earth." Their words echoed Eden, not the garden but the fall. Be like God. Take and descend. Make your name endure. This was not worship. It was ambition stacked into the sky. It was unity, not for holiness but for glory. One tongue, one plan, one monument to self. The tower rose, not with haste but with confidence. Every brick laid was a heartbeat of pride. Every level built was a layer of forgetfulness. They had heard of the flood. They had seen the rainbow. But they did not fear judgment. They feared obscurity. "Let us build a name," they said. "Not let us call upon the name, but let us become what we worship." The tower was not just high. It was defiant. And yet, the higher it climbed, the smaller it became in heaven's eyes. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower that the children of man had built. He was not confused. He was not threatened. He descended not because he could not see, but to show how low their heights truly were. And the Lord said, "Behold, they are one people and they all have one language. And this is only the beginning of what they will do. Nothing they propose to do will now be impossible for them. Come, let us go down and confuse their language so that they may not understand one another's speech." Unity had become idolatry. Cooperation had become corruption. So the Lord scattered them from there over the face of all the earth. And they left off building the city. The tower stood incomplete, a monument to man's interruption, not fallen by fire nor by flood, but by confusion. A name was not made, a legacy was not secured. And the place was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of all the earth. And from there the Lord dispersed them across every land. And so they were scattered, not by sword, not by flood, but by the breaking of their words. One morning they spoke as brothers. By dusk they could not even ask for bread. Language fractured. The unity that built the tower crumbled like its stones. Their sentences, once sharp as bricks, now fell as dust. They pointed, they gestured, they wept in confusion. Then they left. Family by family, clan by clan, direction by direction. They moved not with purpose, but with necessity. The plain of Shinar emptied. The tower, unfinished. A skeleton of ambition. A whisper of rebellion caught in the wind. And the place was called Babel, because their language was confused. From let us make a name, to a place where names could no longer be spoken. And the Lord scattered them across the earth. New tongues grew on old soil. New stories took root in strange lands. But something had been lost. Not just understanding, but nearness. Not just language, but presence. The tower was not just an end. It was a mirror of man's heart. To rise without reverence, to gather without gratitude, to build without blessing. Babel taught them that height without humility leads only to separation. For generations they wandered, they traded, they warred. But the ache remained, a yearning for a common name, for a voice to bring the scattered home. And the Lord was not done speaking. Out of the ruins of Babel he would call one man, not to build a tower, but to walk a path, not to reach the heavens, but to receive a promise, not to make a name for himself, but to be given a name. His name was Abram, and through him, every nation that had once been scattered would be blessed. From the ashes of pride, God would plant a covenant. From confusion, he would call forth faith. From many tongues, he would form a people. And the story, the true story, would begin again, with one man and one word. Go! If your heart has ever felt scattered, if your spirit has longed for a name not made by men, then stay. There is more to the story. There is a voice still calling across the centuries. It does not cry out from towers, but from tents. It does not build kingdoms of pride, but covenants of trust. The next chapter begins not in stone, but in sand. Let us walk with Abram, the man who left all to follow a voice, the one through whom blessing would return to every broken land. In the ruins of Babel, names were lost, tongues splintered, pride scattered. But the Lord was not done naming. Among the sons of Shem, one name rose quietly, Abram. He lived in Ur, a city of moon gods, bronze gates, and bustling idols. His father was Terah, his wife was Sarai. He had no child, and he was not young. His days were shaped by hearth and heritage, by dust and trade. He was not looking for the voice of heaven, but the voice found him. The Lord said to Abram, "Go, not stay and build, not gather and grow, but go. Go from your country, your kindred, your father's house, to the land that I will show you. No map, no monument, just a promise." And the voice spoke again, "I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you, and I will make your name great so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed." 7 promises, each a seed, each an echo against the pride of Babel. Their men sought to make a name. Here God gives one. There they feared being scattered. Here God sends forth. There they grasped upward. Here Abram walks forward. He did not argue, he did not delay. So Abram went as the Lord had told him. He was 75 years old. He took Sarai, his barren wife. He took Lot, his orphaned nephew. He took servants' livestock in silence. For the voice had spoken, and Abram believed. They passed through the land uncertain of each step, to the oak of Morah, to the heights of Canaan. And there the Lord appeared again. "To your offspring I will give this land." And Abram built an altar, not a tower, not a throne, an altar. Stone upon stone he marked the moment when heaven touched earth. He moved again southward toward Bethel. There he pitched his tent. And again he built an altar, a name. And he called on the name of the Lord, not his own, not his father's, but the name that called him from nothing into promise. He called, and heaven answered with silence full of presence. The journey had begun, not toward fame, but toward faith. Not toward empire, but toward encounter. Abram did not know where he was going, but he knew who had spoken. And sometimes that is enough. The land had been promised, a gift, a covenant, but the land grew dry. The sky withheld rain. The soil cracked, the herds grew thin, and the man who had left everything now faced lack. There was a famine in the land, and Abram, the one who followed the voice, turned south. He went down to Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was severe. Egypt, a land of gods and grain, of abundance and ambition. He entered not with armies, but with anxiety, and fear found his lips. As he drew near, he said to Sarai, "I know you are beautiful. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, 'This is his wife.' Then they will kill me. But let you live. Say you are my sister, so that it may go well with me because of you." Faith wavers, even in the faithful. And Sarai, silent, obedient, agreed. They entered Egypt with a lie, and the Egyptians saw her and praised her to Pharaoh. She was taken into his house, and for her sake Pharaoh dealt well with Abram. He received sheep-oxen, male and female servants, donkeys and camels. The man who had left Ur with faith now found himself rich in Pharaoh's gold. But the tents were empty, the altar left behind. And Sarai, his wife, his partner in covenant, was not beside him. She was in Pharaoh's palace, under another roof, bearing the weight of another man's favor. But God did not forget. He struck Pharaoh and his house with great plagues. Pharaoh summoned Abram. "What is this you have done to me? Why did you not tell me she was your wife? Why did you say, 'She is my sister,' so that I took her for myself? Now then, take your wife and go." So Abram was sent away. He left with Sarai, with Lot, with all he had gained. Back into the wilderness, back into the unknown, but this time with bruises. Not on his skin, but on his trust. For even those called can falter. Even the obedient can be afraid. Even the faithful can speak lies to survive. But God was still with him. The covenant had not cracked. The promise had not withered. And Abram returned to Canaan with more than herds. He returned with mercy. He went back to the place of the altar he had built before. And there he called again on the name of the Lord, the name he once believed with confidence, now with contrition. And heaven heard. For the God who calls us knows we are dust. He does not abandon because of fear. He does not withdraw because of weakness. He draws near, and the journey continued. The land could not bear them both. Abram had grown rich, not just in faith but in flocks, herds, and tents. Lot too had much. And with abundance came friction. The herdsmen of Abram and the herdsmen of Lot quarreled. The land, though promised, felt tight, crowded. And Abram, the elder, the one with the call, spoke first. "Let there be no strife between you and me. Is not the whole land before you? If you go left, then I will go right. If you go right, then I will go left." He did not grasp, he did not contend. He released, for he trusted not in land, but in the one who gave it. And Lot looked up. He saw that the plain of the Jordan was well watered, like the garden of the Lord, like Egypt. So Lot chose for himself all the valley, and he journeyed east. He pitched his tents as far as Sodom, a city rich but wicked, a soil lush but soured. Lot chose by sight, by green fields, by ease. Abram remained in the land of Canaan. And after Lot had separated, the Lord spoke again. "Lift up your eyes and look from the place where you are, northward and southward, eastward and westward. For all the land that you see I will give to you and to your offspring forever. I will make your offspring as the dust of the earth, so that if one can count the dust, then your offspring also can be counted. Rise, walk through the length and breadth of the land, for I give it to you." So Abram moved his tent. He came and settled by the oaks of Mamre in Hebron, and there he built an altar to the Lord. Again, another altar, another stone upon stone, another place of memory. He had no city, no children, no deed of land. But he had a word, and he held it like fire in his bones. The land was not yet his, but the promise was, and the stars were still waiting to be counted. And so he walked, with no map but a word, with no child yet a promise of nations. He pitched his tents beneath trees, built altars on hills of waiting. The stars blinked overhead, silent witnesses to a vow still unfulfilled. But heaven does not forget, and God was not done speaking. When the night grew thick, when doubts coiled beneath hope, a voice called again. "Fear not, Abram. I am your shield. Your reward shall be very great." "But how can it be?" Abram asked, "when I remain childless? What is a promise if no one inherits it?" And the Lord answered, not with reasoning, but with wonder. "Come outside. Look toward heaven. Count the stars if you are able. So shall your offspring be." And Abram believed the Lord. Let us return now to that sacred night, to fire, smoke, and covenant. Let us walk into the mystery of Genesis 15. The night was quiet. Abram sat beneath the sky, his tent behind him, his years before him. He was old. He was blessed. But he was empty. He had flocks, but no son. He had land to walk, but no heir to carry the name. And the word of the Lord came to him in a vision. "Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield. Your reward shall be very great." But Abram answered not with praise, but with a question. "O Lord God, what will you give me, for I continue childless, and the heir of my house is Eliezer of Damascus? You have given me no offspring, and a servant will inherit all." It was not accusation, it was ache. Years had passed. Altars had been built. Promises had been spoken, but the cradle remained empty. And the word of the Lord came again. "This man shall not be your heir. Your own son shall be your heir. Come outside." And Abram stepped into the dark. Above him, stars. "Count them if you are able. So shall your offspring be. Not just many, but immeasurable. Not just born of body, but born of promise." And in that moment, between silence and sky, between hope and impossibility, Abram believed. He did not understand. He did not demand proof. He believed. And the Lord counted it to him as righteousness. This was not law, not sacrifice, not ritual. It was faith, a trust deeper than doubt, a surrender stronger than certainty. And the Lord said, "I am the Lord who brought you out from Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to possess." But Abram still trembled. "O Lord God, how am I to know that I shall possess it?" Faith does not silence all fear. So God gave a sign, not thunder, not a miracle, but a ritual. "Bring me a heifer, 3 years old, a female goat, a ram, a turtle dove, and a pigeon." And Abram brought them all. He cut them in two and laid each half opposite the other. A path of blood, a corridor of covenant. The birds he did not cut, but birds of prey came down on the carcasses. And Abram drove them away. He waited. He watched. And as the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram. And behold, dread and great darkness fell upon him. The moment of covenant was not warm. It was weighty. God would speak again. But first, the silence of eternity would press upon a man. As the sun set, a great sleep fell upon Abram. Not the rest of comfort, but the weight of revelation. And in the darkness, God spoke. "Know this for certain. Your offspring will be strangers in a land not their own. They will be enslaved and afflicted for 400 years. But I will bring judgment upon the nation they serve. And afterward they shall come out with great possessions. As for you, you shall go to your fathers in peace. You shall be buried in a good old age. And they shall return here in the 4th generation. For the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete." Abram lay still. The promise was wrapped in shadow. A people would be born, but through sorrow. A nation would rise, but from bondage. This was no fairy tale. This was covenant. Then, When the darkness was complete and silence like a shroud, a fire appeared, a smoking firepot, a flaming torch. It passed between the pieces. Not Abram, not man. God alone walked the path of blood. He bound himself to the vow. He made himself the guarantor. If I break my word, let me be as these torn animals. Thus the Lord cut a covenant with Abram. To your offspring I give this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river Euphrates, the land of the Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Cadmonites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Rephaim, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Girgashites, and the Jebusites, nations stronger than Abram, tribes older than his name. But they would not stand, because the covenant stood stronger, not because Abram could keep it, but because God would. And the fire that moved through death sealed a future no man could undo. When Abram awoke, the ground was stained. The wind was still, and heaven had spoken. He carried no scroll, no stone tablet, only memory and promise, and that was enough. He carried no scroll, no stone tablet, only memory and promise, and that was enough. If this moment stirred something in you, a longing for fire that does not burn out a word that cannot be broken, then linger with us. Like this story, if it brought your soul to stillness. Share it with one whose journey feels uncertain, and subscribe if you too are walking by promise not by sight. The fire still moves, the covenant still stands, and the stars still wait to be counted. Time passed, the stars remained, the promise remained, but the womb remained closed. Sarai had waited. She had heard the word. She had followed the call, but she was still barren, year after year, night after night. The silence grew heavier than the promise, and Sarai spoke to Abram, "Behold, now the Lord has prevented me from bearing children. Go into my servant. It may be that I shall obtain children by her." It was not rebellion. It was resignation. Perhaps this is how the promise must be fulfilled. And Abram listened to the voice of Sarai. He went into Hagar, the Egyptian maidservant, and she conceived. But when she knew, her heart lifted, and she looked on Sarai with contempt. The bond of sisterhood turned sharp. The servant became rival, and Sarai said to Abram, "May the wrong done to me be on you. I gave my servant into your embrace, and now she despises me. May the Lord judge between you and me." Abram said, "Behold, your servant is in your hand. Do to her as you please." So Sarai dealt harshly with her, and Hagar fled into the wilderness, alone, afraid with child. But the angel of the Lord found her by a spring of water in the desert. "Hagar, servant of Sarai, where have you come from, and where are you going?" She answered, "I am fleeing from my mistress." And the angel said, "Return, submit, and I will multiply your offspring so that they cannot be numbered. You are with child, you shall bear a son. You shall call his name Ishmael." God hears. "For the Lord has heard your affliction. He shall be a wild donkey of a man, his hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him." And she called the name of the Lord, who spoke to her, "You are the God who sees me." For she said, "Have I truly seen him who sees me?" And the spring was called Bir Lahai Roi, the well of the living one who sees me. Hagar returned. She bore a son, and Abram called his name Ishmael. He was 86 years old, but the promise still waited. Not just a child, but the child. Not just life, but covenant. And for 13 years, God was silent. No fire, no stars, no voice. Only waiting, only aging, only the weight of what was said and not yet seen. 13 years of silence. No visions, no stars, no fire. Only the echo of what once was spoken. Abram had aged. Sarai had withered. And Ishmael, the son born of waiting shortcut, had grown. But the covenant still hovered unfulfilled. Then, When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared. I am El Shaddai, God Almighty. Walk before me and be blameless. I will make my covenant between me and you and will multiply you exceedingly. And Abram fell on his face. The voice had returned, but not just to remind, to rename. Behold, my covenant is with you. You shall be the father of a multitude of nations. No longer shall your name be Abram, exalted father, but your name shall be Abraham, father of many. For I have made you the father of a multitude, and I will make you exceedingly fruitful. Kings shall come from you, and I will establish my covenant as an everlasting covenant between me and you and your offspring after you, to be God to you and to them. And I will give to you and your seed the land of your sojournings, all of Canaan for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. It was no longer just a promise, it was a name, a nation, a forever. But this covenant would be cut. Every male among you shall be circumcised. You shall be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskins, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and you. 8 days after birth, every son, born or bought, shall bear the mark. And any uncircumcised male shall be cut off from his people, for he has broken my covenant. This was not a ritual for convenience. It was pain. It was blood. It was identity etched into flesh, a reminder, daily bodily, that the promise cost something. And God said to Abraham, As for Sarai, your wife, you shall not call her name Sarai but Sarah. Princess, I will bless her, and she shall bear you a son. She shall be a mother of nations. Kings of peoples shall come from her. And Abraham fell on his face and laughed. Can a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? Shall Sarah, who is 90, bear a child? And Abraham said to God, Oh, that Ishmael might live before you. But God said, No, Sarah, your wife shall bear you a son, and you shall call his name Isaac. He laughs. I will establish my covenant with him. As for Ishmael, I have heard you. I will bless him. I will make him fruitful. He shall father 12 princes, but my covenant I will establish with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bear to you at this set time next year. Then God went up from Abraham, and the man who once questioned, who once stumbled, rose. That very day, Abraham took Ishmael his son and all the males of his house, and he circumcised the flesh of their foreskins. 99 years old, 100 cuts for one covenant. And the name of Abraham was sealed in blood. The sun was high. The heat hung heavy over the tents at Mamre. And Abraham sat at the entrance weary from age and the wounds of covenant. Then he lifted his eyes and saw 3 men standing nearby. Without hesitation he rose and ran to meet them. He bowed to the earth and said, O Lord, if I have found favor in your sight, do not pass by your servant. Let a little water be brought. Rest yourselves under the tree. I will bring a morsel of bread that you may refresh yourselves, and after that you may pass on. So they said, Do as you have said. And Abraham hastened into the tent. Quick, he said to Sarah, 3 measures of fine flour. Knead it and bake cakes. Then he ran to the herd, took a tender calf and gave it to a young man who prepared it quickly. He brought curd's milk and the calf, and he set it before them. He stood while they ate. 3 visitors, 1 presence. Then they asked, Where is Sarah, your wife? And Abraham answered, In the tent. Then one of them said, I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah, your wife, shall have a son. Sarah was listening at the tent door behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in years. The way of women had ceased for Sarah. So she laughed to herself. After I am worn out, and my Lord is old, shall I now have pleasure? But the Lord heard the laughter. And he said to Abraham, Why did Sarah laugh and say, Shall I indeed bear a child now that I am old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the appointed time I will return to you about this time next year, and Sarah shall have a son." Then Sarah was afraid. She denied it. "I did not laugh," she said. But he said, "No, but you did laugh. A laugh caught between disbelief and desire. A laugh born of long waiting, of dried tears, of silent hopes. And the child to come would bear that name, Isaac." He laughs, not in mockery, not in doubt, but in wonder. The God who made stars, who walked through fire, who renamed dust, would soon make a womb sing. And the story, ancient and eternal, was about to rise from the soil of impossibility. And so, a child would come, from a womb long silent, from a covenant long tested. But as joy took root in one tent, a cry rose from another place. The Lord stood with Abraham looking toward the valley. "Shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do? For the outcry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and their sin is very grave." 2 angels turned toward the city, but the Lord remained. Abraham drew near, not with fire, but with a question. "Will you indeed sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Let us walk with him now, into the valley of pleading, into the balance of mercy and justice, into the intercession of a friend of God." The sun hung low over the hills of Hebron, and Abraham stood beside the Lord. Below them, a valley, green, lush, and heavy with sin. The cities of Sodom and Gomorrah gleamed in the light, but their hearts were dark. And the Lord said, "Shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do? He shall become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I have chosen him that he may command his children to keep the way of the Lord by doing righteousness and justice." Then the Lord said, "The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and their sin is very grave. I will go down to see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry that has come to me. And if not, I will know." Then the men, 2 of them, turned and walked towards Sodom. But Abraham stood still before the Lord. And then he stepped forward, not with boldness, but with burden. "Will you indeed sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Will you then sweep it away and not spare the place for the sake of the 50? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to put the righteous to death with the wicked, so that the righteous fare as the wicked. Far be that from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth do what is just?" And the Lord said, "If I find at Sodom 50 righteous in the city, I will spare the whole place for their sake." But Abraham was not done. "What if 5 are lacking? Will you destroy the city for 45? And he said, "I will not destroy it if I find 45 there." Abraham spoke again. "What if 40? He answered, "For the sake of 40 I will not do it." Then 30, then 20, then 10. And each time the Lord said, "I will not destroy it for the sake of 10. And then the Lord went his way, and Abraham returned to his tent. No answer was given about what would be found. Only this: God had listened, and the judge of all the earth would act justly. In Abraham's voice was not defiance, but trust. A friend pleading for friends. A father reaching for mercy. And the silence that followed was not empty. It was wait. It was decision. It was the stillness before the storm. The 2 angels came to Sodom at evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of the city. He rose to meet them, bowed low, and said, "My lords, turn aside to your servant's house. Spend the night and wash your feet. Then you may rise early and go on your way." They said, "No. We will spend the night in the town square." But Lot urged them strongly, and they turned aside and entered his house. He made a feast. He baked unleavened bread, and they ate. But before they laid down, the men of the city, young and old, surrounded the house. They called to Lot, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us that we may know them." And Lot went out to the men at the entrance. He shut the door behind him, and he said, "I beg you, my brothers, do not act so wickedly. but they pressed hard against him. Then the angels reached out their hands, brought Lot into the house, and shut the door. And they struck the men with blindness. So they wore themselves out, groping for the door. Then the angels said to Lot, "Have you anyone else here? Sons-in-law, sons' daughters, or anyone you have in the city? Bring them out. For we are about to destroy this place, because the outcry has become great before the Lord. And the Lord has sent us to destroy it." Lot went out to his sons-in-law. "Up, get out of this place, for the Lord is about to destroy the city." But they laughed. They thought he was jesting. As morning dawned, the angels urged Lot, "Take your wife and your 2 daughters, lest you be swept away in the punishment." But he lingered. So the men seized him and his wife and his daughters by the hand, the Lord being merciful to him. And they brought them out and set them outside the city. Then one said, "Escape for your life. Do not look back. Do not stop anywhere in the valley. Escape to the hills, lest you be swept away." And Lot ran. Then the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah sulfur and fire from heaven. And he overthrew those cities, and all the valley, and all the inhabitants, and what grew on the ground. But Lot's wife behind him looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. The day rose. Smoke went up from the land like the smoke of a furnace. Abraham rose early. He looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah, toward the land of the valley. And behold, the smoke of the land went up like a kiln. But God remembered Abraham, and he sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow. Even in judgment there was mercy. Even in fire there was escape. And the smoke still tells the story, a story of justice, a story of warning, a story we are meant to remember. And the Lord visited Sarah as he had said. And the Lord did to Sarah as he had promised. Words once whispered under stars, under altars, now rose with the cry of new life. Sarah conceived, not in her youth, not in her strength, but in her barrenness. When all was past, when flesh had faded and hope had flickered into ashes, then God moved. At the set time, as he had spoken, she bore a son to Abraham in his old age. The tent that had held silence now pulsed with sound, the cooing of life, the rustle of swaddling cloth, the astonished weeping of 2 aged souls who had waited a lifetime. And Abraham called the name of his son, whom Sarah bore him, Isaac. He laughs, not in scorn, not in doubt, but in wonder. A laughter born of disbelief turned to devotion. 8 days later, Abraham circumcised Isaac as God had commanded, the mark of covenant etched into the skin of promise. The blood that once sealed Abraham's own body now sealed the body of his miracle. Isaac cried. And the tent remembered the night of fire, the walk between halves, the vow spoken in smoke and silence. Sarah stood nearby, her eyes wet, her heart overwhelmed. And she said, "God has made laughter for me. All who hear will laugh with me." But this was not the laughter of mockery. This was the laughter of a woman who waited, of a woman who had buried her hope again and again only to see it rise in the arms of a child, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children. Yet here I am, old and full, empty for years, and now overflowing. And she cradled Isaac as though holding the word made warm. Abraham watched from the doorway, the same man who once laughed at the impossibility, who once begged God to let Ishmael live instead of this child not yet born. He now saw not an idea, not a vision, but a son, flesh of his flesh, proof that the impossible was merely God's beginning. And Isaac grew. With each day his laughter echoed louder, not just in the tent, but across the hills. Neighbors came. Servants smiled. Even strangers heard of the old couple who bore a child in their final years. And they laughed, not at them, but with them, because the promise had not died, because the story was not done, and the child, whose name was Laughter, became a living parable, a reminder that heaven does not rush, but it never forgets. Meanwhile, Ishmael watched. He too was a son of Abraham, He too carried blood and breath, but he was born of a shortcut, of impatience. And though he was loved, he would soon feel the sharp edge of rejection. For two sons could not both inherit a single vow, but that is for another moment. For now, let the tent hold joy. Let the aged father bless his God. Let the aged mother sing lullabies between tears. And let the world remember that laughter is not always mockery. Sometimes it is the sound of faith fulfilled. The boy grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast on the day Isaac was weaned. Laughter filled the tent again. The promise had taken its first steps. But not all were laughing. Ishmael watched. He was older, a young man now, the firstborn, the first to run to speak to call Abraham father, but not the promised one. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, laughing, not the laughter of joy, not the laughter of Isaac, but mockery, tension, a sound sharp as a blade. And Sarah said to Abraham, "Cast out this slave woman with her son, for the son of this slave woman shall not be heir with my son Isaac." The words pierced Abraham. This thing was very displeasing to him because of his son, not just Sarah's rival, not just Hagar's child, but his son. Yet God said to Abraham, "Do not be displeased because of the boy and because of your bondwoman. Whatever Sarah says to you, do as she tells you. For through Isaac shall your offspring be named. And I will make a nation of the son of the bondwoman also, because he is your offspring." So Abraham rose early in the morning. He took bread and a skin of water and gave it to Hagar, putting it on her shoulder. He sent her away with the boy, and she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. The sun grew cruel. The water was spent, and Hagar cast the boy under one of the shrubs. Then she went and sat down opposite him a good way off, about the distance of a bow shot. She said, "Let me not look on the death of the child." And as she sat opposite, she lifted up her voice and wept. But it was not her cry that moved heaven. It was the cry of the boy. And God heard the voice of the boy. And the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven, "What troubles you, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heard the voice of the boy where he is. Lift up the boy, hold him fast with your hand, for I will make him into a great nation." Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. She went. She filled the skin. She gave the boy a drink. And God was with the boy, and he grew up. He lived in the wilderness and became an archer. He settled in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took a wife for him from the land of Egypt. 2 sons, 2 stories, 2 directions, one toward the promise, one into the wild, but both held by the same God, both seen by the same eyes. And Abraham stood between them. One son laughed, one son cried, and soon he would be asked to give one back. But that was for another day. For now, let the wilderness be quiet. Let the water rise. Let the covenant prepare for fire. And so, the child of promise grew. His feet learned the dust of Canaan. His hands touched altars. His voice echoed his father's laughter. But the covenant was never just about joy. It was also about trust. And trust, true trust, is not proven in the giving. It is proven in the letting go. Then, one day, God spoke again. "Abraham, here I am. Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and offer him. On a mountain I will show you. Let us walk now into the silence of obedience, into the shadow of the blade, into the firewood and the altar." The test was not for God. It was for us. After these things, after the covenant and the child, after the laughter and the feast, after the long roads and the open sky, God tested Abraham. And he said to him, "Abraham." And Abraham said, "Here I am." 3 words. The readiness of a servant, the openness of a soul. Then came the command, "Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah. Offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains I will show you. Not a famine to endure, not a nation to leave, not a foreign king to face, but his son, the child of laughter, the son of promise, the breath of old age, and the name that bore heaven's smile. And now, an altar. No explanation, no reason, just a place, a knife, a command. Yet Abraham rose early in the morning. He saddled his donkey. He took 2 of his young men and Isaac his son. He split the wood for the burnt offering, each log a weight upon his heart. Then he set out for the place God had told him. 3 days. 3 days of silence. 3 nights of listening to Isaac breathe, of watching him walk beside him, laugh ahead of him, sleep beneath him. 3 days of wondering if faith meant ending what faith had begun. No words from heaven, no visions, just footsteps on dry ground. And on the 3rd day he lifted his eyes and saw the mountain from afar, a shape against the sky, a place of decision. Then Abraham said to his young men, "Stay here with the donkey. I and the boy will go over there and worship, and come again to you." He said they would return. Was it faith? A slip of the tongue, or the hope of a heart unwilling to surrender the end? Then he took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac. The son carried the burden of his own altar, and Abraham took the fire in his hand and the knife. So they went on together. Isaac spoke, his voice like a tremble in the air. "My father, here I am, my son. Behold, the fire and the wood. But where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" And Abraham said, "God will provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering, my son." Words both answer and ache. God will provide. Not now, not here, but somewhere, somehow. And they walked on, the father bearing silence, the son bearing wood, their steps etched into the dust of generations. What thoughts filled Abraham's mind? Was he recalling the stars, too many to count? Was he remembering the laughter in Sarah's arms? Or was he simply walking because stopping would break him? Every step was a yes. Yes to the God who gave. Yes to the God who now asked. Yes to the God who saw. The knife pressed against his thigh. The fire warmed his palm. But it was the wood on his son's back that burned hottest. This was no punishment, no cruelty, no game. This was covenant refined. Obedience tested at the edge of love. Would he trust even here? Would he climb even now? And Isaac, he walked with him. No struggle, no questions beyond one. Just footsteps, faith in a father whose silence spoke more than words. The mountain loomed, its peak still hidden in cloud. But the altar waited, and the world held its breath. And they came to the place that God had shown him. The air was thin. The silence absolute. No birds, no wind, only the breath of obedience. Abraham built the altar there, stone by stone, deliberate, measured, as though each one were a heartbeat. He laid the wood in order. Then he turned to Isaac, and he bound his son. Isaac, who had once asked, "Where is the lamb?" now understood. But he did not run. He did not resist. He lay down, the wood beneath his back, the sky above his eyes, his father's hands upon his chest. And Abraham reached out his hand. He took the knife, and he raised it. Time froze. The world stood on the edge of a blade. This was the moment. The promise bound, the future laid bare. And the man who had walked with God through famine, through fire, through the laughter of impossibility, was now asked to walk through the letting go. Then, a voice, "Abraham, Abraham," and he said, "Here I am. Do not lay your hand on the boy. Do nothing to him. For now I know that you fear God, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me." And Abraham lowered the knife. His hands trembled, not with sorrow, but with awe. The test was not for God. It was for Abraham. And Abraham had not failed. Then Abraham lifted his eyes, and behind him a ram, caught in a thicket by its horns. Not beside them, not far away. Behind him, already there, already provided. He went and took the ram and offered it up as a burnt offering, instead of his son. Substitution. Mercy, the mystery of grace carved into the side of a mountain. And Abraham called the name of that place, "The Lord will provide," as it is said to this day. On the mount of the Lord it shall be provided. Then the angel of the Lord called to Abraham a second time from heaven, and said, "By myself I have sworn, declares the Lord, because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you. And I will surely multiply your offspring as the stars of heaven and as the sand that is on the seashore. And your offspring shall possess the gate of his enemies. And in your offspring shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice." So Abraham returned to his young men, and they rose and went together to Beersheba. And Abraham dwelt there, but the mountain remained behind them, the altar, the ram, the name, the place where obedience met mercy, where the knife was withheld, and where another offering took its place. That day did not end the story. It cast its shadow forward to another sun, another hill, another wood, another silence split by love. But for now, let the Father and the Son descend in peace. Let the promise echo in the rocks, and let the question linger in every soul. Would we have lifted the knife? Would we have trusted the silence? Would we have believed that God will provide? And the knife was sheathed, and the boy was spared. But time like water flowed on. Sarah would soon breathe her last. The tent would grow quiet, and Isaac would grow. Yet the promise was not complete until it could continue. And so the servant was called. "Swear to me," Abraham said, "that you will not take a wife for my son from the daughters of this land, but from my kindred. And if she will not come, then you are free from this oath. But go, find the one God has chosen." And the servant went, with camels, with gold, with prayers. Let us follow him now to the edge of a well, to the moment where chance meets providence, where kindness becomes covenant. Now Abraham was old, well advanced in years, and the Lord had blessed him in all things. But the promise, though protected on a mountain, needed to be planted in a home. And Isaac, the son of covenant, remained alone. So Abraham called his chief servant, the oldest of his household, who had charge of all he had. And he said to him, "Put your hand under my thigh, that I may make you swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and of earth, that you will not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I dwell, but go to my country and to my kindred, and take a wife there for my son Isaac." The servant asked, "What if the woman is not willing to follow me? Must I then take your son back to the land you came from?" And Abraham said, "See to it that you do not take my son back there. The Lord, the God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and who spoke to me and swore to me, 'To your offspring I will give this land. He will send his angel before you, and you shall take a wife for my son from there. But if the woman is not willing to come, you will be free from this oath. Only do not take my son back." So the servant placed his hand under Abraham's thigh and swore. And the next morning he arose, 10 camels, all kinds of choice gifts from his master's hand. He set out toward the city of Nahor in Mesopotamia, a journey through deserts and memory, a journey not just for a bride, but for the continuation of covenant. As the sun began to fall, he arrived. Outside the city, he made the camels kneel by the well of water at the time when women go out to draw water. And he prayed, "O Lord God of my master Abraham, please grant me success today and show steadfast love to my master. Behold, I am standing by the spring of water, and the daughters of the men of the city are coming out to draw water. Let the young woman to whom I shall say, 'Please let down your jar that I may drink,' and who shall say, 'Drink, and I will water your camels,' also Let her be the one you have appointed for your servant Isaac. By this I shall know that you have shown steadfast love." And even before he had finished speaking, behold, Rebekah came out, born to Bethuel, son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother. She carried her jar on her shoulder. She was very beautiful. A maiden, no man had known her. She went down to the spring, filled her jar, and came up. Then the servant ran to meet her. "Please let me sip a little water from your jar." And she said, "Drink, my lord." And she quickly let down her jar upon her hand and gave him a drink. When she had finished giving him a drink, she said, "I will draw water for your camels also until they have finished drinking." So she quickly emptied her jar into the trough and ran again to the well to draw water. And she drew for all his camels. The man gazed at her in silence, to learn whether the Lord had prospered his journey or not. But in his heart, he already knew, for the sign had been answered before he finished praying. The servant did not just witness kindness, he witnessed providence. When the camels finished drinking and the trough was still wet with kindness, the man reached into his pouch, a gold ring for her nose, 1/2 shekel in weight, 2 bracelets for her arms, 10 shekels of gold. Then he asked her, "Whose daughter are you? Is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night?" She said, "I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, whom she bore to Nahor. And yes, we have plenty of straw and fodder and room to lodge in." Then the man bowed his head and worshipped the Lord. "Blessed be the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who has not forsaken his steadfast love and faithfulness. The Lord has led me by the hand to the house of my master's kin." And the girl, Rebekah, ran home. Now Rebekah had a brother. His name was Laban. When he saw the ring, the bracelets, and heard his sister's words, he ran out to the spring. He came to the man still standing by the camels. "Come in, O blessed of the Lord. Why do you stand outside? I have prepared the house and a place for your camels." So the man entered. He unloaded the camels, gave them straw and fodder, and brought water to wash his feet and the feet of the men with him. Food was set before him. But he said, "I will not eat until I have spoken what I have to say." "Speak on," they replied. And he spoke, "I am Abraham's servant. The Lord has blessed my master greatly. He has given him flocks and herds, silver and gold, male and female servants, camels and donkeys. And Sarah bore him a son in her old age. My master has given all that he has to his son." Then he recounts the oath, the journey, the prayer, and the girl, Rebekah, who came before he had even finished speaking. "Now, if you will show steadfast love and faithfulness to my master, tell me, and if not, tell me too, so I may turn to the right hand or to the left." Then Laban and Bethuel answered, "This thing has come from the Lord. We cannot speak to you good or bad. Behold, Rebekah is before you. Take her. Let her be the wife of your master's son, as the Lord has spoken." Then the servant bowed to the ground before the Lord. He brought out silver and gold jewelry garments and gave them to Rebekah. He also gave precious things to her brother and mother. They ate, they drank, they spent the night. But in the morning he said, "Send me away to my master." Her brother and mother said, "Let the girl remain with us a few days, at least 10. After that, she may go." But he said, "Do not delay me. Since the Lord has prospered my journey, let me go." So they called Rebekah and said to her, "Will you go with this man?" And she said, "I will go." Then they sent away Rebekah their sister and her nurse, and Abraham's servant and his men. And they blessed Rebekah and said, "Our sister, may you become thousands of 10,000s, and may your offspring possess the gate of those who hate them." So Rebekah arose. She and her young women mounted the camels and followed the man. Now Isaac was dwelling in the Negev. He had gone out to meditate in the field toward evening. And he lifted his eyes and saw, behold, camels were coming. And Rebekah lifted her eyes. When she saw Isaac, she dismounted from the camel. And she said to the servant, "Who is that man walking in the field to meet us?" The servant said, "It is my master." So she took her veil and covered herself. And the servant told Isaac all the things he had done. Then Isaac brought her into the tent of Sarah, his mother. And he took Rebekah, and she became his wife. And he loved her. So Isaac was comforted after his mother's death, and love settled in the tent. Isaac was comforted. Rebekah became his joy. From their union came Esau and Jacob. And from Jacob, 12 sons. But not all stories begin in peace. One son dreamed, not of herds or harvests, but of stars and thrones, of sheaves bowing, of skies bending. His name was Joseph, and his dreams would stir jealousy and open a path no one could see coming. Let us now follow the boy with the coat of many colors, into the pit, into Egypt, into a plan only heaven could weave. Jacob loved Joseph more than any of his other sons, for Joseph was the son of his old age, and Jacob made him a robe of many colors, woven not just with thread but with affection, with memory, with longing. The boy wore it proudly, bright, flowing, different, and his brothers saw it. They saw the way Jacob's eyes softened, the way Joseph walked above his age, and they hated him, not for what he had done, but for who he was. Then came the dreams. Joseph said to them, "Hear this dream that I have dreamed. Behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and behold, my sheaf arose and stood upright. And behold, your sheaves gathered around it and bowed down to my sheaf." And his brothers said to him, "Are you indeed to reign over us? Are you indeed to rule us?" And they hated him even more, for his dreams and for his words. Then he dreamed another dream, and he told it to his brothers. "Behold, I have dreamed another dream. Behold, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me." But when he told it to his father and to his brothers, even Jacob rebuked him. "What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brothers indeed come to bow ourselves to the ground before you?" And his brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the saying in mind. One day Jacob said to Joseph, "Go now, see if it is well with your brothers and with the flock. They are near Shechem." So Joseph went. And when his brothers saw him from afar, before he came near to them, they conspired against him to kill him. "Here comes this dreamer. Come now, let us kill him and throw him into one of the pits. Then we will say that a fierce animal has devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams." But Reuben heard it, and he rescued him out of their hands, saying, "Let us not take his life. Shed no blood. Throw him into this pit here in the wilderness, but do not lay a hand on him." He said this that he might rescue him later and restore him to his father. So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him. They stripped him of his robe, the robe of many colors that he wore. And they took him and threw him into a pit. The pit was empty. There was no water in it. Then they sat down to eat. And looking up, they saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead, with their camels bearing gum balm and myrrh, on their way to carry it down to Egypt. Then Judah said to his brothers, "What profit is it if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites. Let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother, our own flesh." And his brothers listened. Then Midianite traders passed by, and they drew Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit, and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. And they took Joseph to Egypt. The robe lay torn, the pit lay silent, and the boy of dreams was bound for a land not his own. He had dreamed of ruling, but now he belonged to strangers. He had seen stars bowing, but now he saw no stars at all, only dust, only loss. But heaven was not done, and Joseph was taken down to Egypt, sold by blood, by silver. He was bought by Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard, a man of status, of power, and now of ownership. But the Lord was with Joseph, and he became a successful man. He lived in the house of his Egyptian master, and his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord caused all he did to succeed. So Joseph found favor in Potiphar's sight. He made him overseer of his house, and from the time he made him overseer, the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. The blessing of the Lord was on all that he had, in house and field. But not all eyes looked with favor. Joseph was handsome in form and appearance, and after a time his master's wife cast her eyes on Joseph. "Lie with me," she said. But he refused. "Behold," he said, "my master has entrusted me with everything in this house. He has withheld nothing from me, except you because you are his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" And day after day she spoke to him, but he did not listen. Then one day he came into the house to do his work, and none of the men of the house were there. She caught him by his garment. "Lie with me." But he left his garment in her hand and fled. He ran from temptation, from danger, from a trap laced with desire and power, and she was left with fabric and fury. Then she called to the men of her household. "See, he has brought among us a Hebrew to laugh at us. He came in to me to lie with me, and I cried out. And when he heard that I raised my voice and cried out, he left his garment beside me and fled." She laid up his garment by her until her master came home. Then she told him the same story. And when Potiphar heard the words, his anger was kindled. So Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. But even there, the Lord was with Joseph and showed him steadfast love and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper put Joseph in charge of all the prisoners. Whatever was done there, he was the one who did it. The keeper paid no attention to anything under Joseph's charge, because the Lord was with him, and whatever he did, the Lord made it succeed. Then, after some time, 2 of Pharaoh's officers were put in custody, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker. Each had offended their lord, and they were committed to the care of Joseph. And one night, both men dreamed, each his own dream. When Joseph came to them in the morning, he saw that they were troubled. "Why are your faces downcast today?" They said, "We have had dreams, and there is no one to interpret them." And Joseph said, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Please, tell them to me." So the chief cupbearer told his dream. "In my dream, a vine was before me, and on the vine were 3 branches. As soon as it budded, its blossoms shot forth, and the clusters ripened into grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand." And Joseph said, "This is its interpretation. The 3 branches are 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your office. You shall place Pharaoh's cup in his hand, as formerly when you were his cupbearer. Only remember me when it is well with you. Please, do me the kindness to mention me to Pharaoh, so that I might get out of this house. For I was stolen out of the land of the Hebrews, and even here I have done nothing that they should put me into the pit." Then the chief baker told his dream. "Behold, 3 cake baskets on my head, and in the top basket were all sorts of baked food for Pharaoh, but birds were eating it out of the basket on my head." And Joseph said, "This is its interpretation. The 3 baskets are 3 days. In 3 days Pharaoh will lift up your head from you. He will hang you on a tree, and the birds will eat the flesh from you. And on the 3rd day, Pharaoh's birthday, he made a feast for all his servants. And he lifted up the heads of the chief cupbearer and the chief baker. He restored the cupbearer to his position, but he hanged the chief baker, just as Joseph had interpreted. Yet the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him, and the cupbearer forgot, but heaven did not. Joseph remained in prison, yet the dreams had not stopped speaking. They whispered of a future not yet seen, until one night, Pharaoh himself dreamed. No one could read it, no sage, no magician, and the cupbearer remembered. 2 years late, right on time, the prisoner was summoned. The dreamer would rise. Now, watch as the pit gives way to the palace. Let us follow Joseph into Pharaoh's court, into wisdom, into famine, into forgiveness. 2 full years passed. Not a word, not a visit, not a flicker of memory in the cupbearer's heart. And Joseph remained in prison, forgotten by man, held by God. Then Pharaoh dreamed. He stood by the Nile, and behold, 7 cows came up out of the river, attractive and plump. They grazed among the reeds. Then behold, 7 other cows came up after them, ugly, thin, such as had never been seen in all the land of Egypt for ugliness. And the thin cows ate the plump cows, but even after eating, they looked just as thin as before. And Pharaoh awoke. He slept again, and dreamed a second time. 7 ears of grain came up on one stalk, plump and good. Then behold, 7 ears thin and blighted by the east wind, sprouted after them, and the thin ears swallowed up the plump ears. And Pharaoh awoke. It was a dream. In the morning his spirit was troubled. So he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt and all the wise men. Pharaoh told them his dreams, but there was none who could interpret them to Pharaoh. Then the cupbearer spoke. Today I remember my offenses. When Pharaoh was angry with his servants, he put me and the chief baker in custody in the house of the captain of the guard. And we dreamed on the same night, each of us according to the interpretation of his dream. There was with us a young Hebrew, a servant of the captain of the guard. When we told him, he interpreted our dreams, and as he interpreted, so it came to pass. I was restored to my office. The other was hanged. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph. They quickly brought him out of the pit. He shaved, changed his clothes, and came in before Pharaoh. Pharaoh said, I have had a dream, and there is no one who can interpret it. I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, It is not in me. God will give Pharaoh a favorable answer. So Pharaoh told Joseph his dreams, the cows, the ears, the eating, the emptiness. And Joseph said to Pharaoh, The dreams of Pharaoh are one. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 plump cows and the 7 good ears are 7 years. And the 7 thin cows and the 7 blighted ears are also 7 years. There will come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt. But after them will arise 7 years of famine, and all the plenty will be forgotten, and the famine will consume the land. And the doubling of Pharaoh's dream means the thing is fixed by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. Now let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh proceed to appoint overseers over the land, and take 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt. During the 7 plentiful years, let them gather all the food of these good years that are coming, and store up grain under the authority of Pharaoh. Let them keep it in cities as a reserve, for the 7 years of famine that will come, so that the land may not perish through the famine. And the proposal pleased Pharaoh and all his servants. Can we find a man like this, in whom is the Spirit of God? Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, Since God has shown you all this, there is none so discerning and wise as you are. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall order themselves as you command. Only as regards the throne will I be greater than you. And Pharaoh took his signet ring from his hand, and put it on Joseph's hand. He clothed him in garments of fine linen, and put a gold chain around his neck. He made him ride in his 2nd chariot. And they called out before him, Bow the knee. Thus he set him over all the land of Egypt. Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without your consent no one shall lift up hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphanath-Paneah, and he gave him in marriage Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On. So Joseph went out over the land of Egypt. Joseph was 30 years old when he entered the service of Pharaoh, and he went through all the land, ordering, storing, preparing. During the 7 plentiful years, the earth produced abundantly, and he gathered up all the food of those 7 years, and stored food in the cities. He stored up grain in great abundance, like the sand of the sea, until he ceased to measure it, for it could not be measured. Before the year of famine came, 2 sons were born to Joseph. He called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for God has made me forget all my hardship and all my father's house. The name of the second he called Ephraim, for God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. And the 7 years of plenty came to an end, and the 7 years of famine began, as Joseph had said. There was famine in all lands, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. When all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. And Pharaoh said, "Go to Joseph. What he says to you, do." So Joseph opened the storehouses and sold to the Egyptians. And the famine grew severe in the land. Moreover, all the earth came to Egypt to Joseph to buy grain, because the famine was severe over all the earth. And the boy who once dreamed now stood with power to feed the world. The one who was cast into the pit now ruled from the palace. The one forgotten was now the one all nations remembered. And yet, the ache of the past remained. Brothers, a father, a home never said goodbye. But soon, they too would come, not with gifts, but with hunger. And Joseph would have to choose justice or mercy. The barns were full, but Joseph's heart was not. He had grain for every nation, but a longing for only one family. And then they came, not in robes of pride, but in garments of famine. The brothers who betrayed him bowed low before the dreamer they did not recognize. And Joseph, the boy who once wept in a pit, now faced the ones who put him there. Would he speak? Would he strike? Or would he heal? Let us return to Egypt, one last time, where memory bleeds, where mercy waits. Now the famine was severe in the land of Canaan, and Jacob heard that there was grain in Egypt. So he said to his sons, "Why do you look at one another? Behold, I have heard that there is grain for sale in Egypt. Go down and buy grain for us there, that we may live and not die." So 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to buy grain. But Jacob did not send Benjamin, Joseph's full brother, for he feared that harm might happen to him. Now Joseph was governor over the land. He was the one who sold to all the people. And Joseph's brothers came and bowed themselves before him with their faces to the ground. Joseph saw his brothers and recognized them, but he treated them like strangers. "Where do you come from?" "From the land of Canaan," they said, "to buy food." And though Joseph recognized his brothers, they did not recognize him. And Joseph remembered the dreams he had dreamed of them, the sheaves, the stars, now kneeling before him. And he said, "You are spies. You have come to see the nakedness of the land." They said, "No, my lord. Your servants have come to buy food. We are all sons of one man. We are honest men. Your servants have never been spies." But Joseph said, "No, it is the nakedness of the land you have come to see." They replied, "We, your servants, are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is no more." But Joseph said, "It is as I said. You are spies. By this you shall be tested. Send one of you to bring your brother, while the rest of you remain confined, that your words may be tested, whether there is truth in you, or else, by the life of Pharaoh, you are surely spies." And he put them all together in custody for 3 days. On the 3rd day, Joseph said to them, "Do this, and you will live, for I fear God. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers remain confined here, and you go and carry grain for the hunger of your households. and bring your youngest brother to me. So your words will be verified, and you shall not die." And they did so. Then they said to one another, "In truth, we are guilty concerning our brother, in that we saw the distress of his soul, when he begged us, and we did not listen. That is why this distress has come upon us." And Reuben answered, "Did I not tell you not to sin against the boy? But you did not listen. So now, behold, his blood is required of us." They did not know that Joseph understood them, for there was an interpreter between them. Then he turned away from them and wept. He returned to them and took Simeon from them and bound him before their eyes. And Joseph gave orders to fill their bags with grain, and to restore every man's money to his sack, and to give them provisions for the journey. This was done for them. Then they loaded their donkeys with grain and departed. At the lodging place, one of them opened his sack to give his donkey fodder, and he saw his money in the mouth of the sack. He said to his brothers, "My money has been put back. Here it is in the mouth of my sack." At this their hearts failed them, and they turned trembling to one another, saying, "What is this that God has done to us?" And they came to Jacob their father in the land of Canaan. They told him all that had happened. The man, the Lord of the land, spoke roughly to us. He took us to be spies, but we said, "We are 12 brothers, sons of our father. One is no more, and the youngest is with our father this day." Then the man said, "By this I shall know that you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers with me. Take grain for the famine, and go. Bring your youngest brother to me. Then I shall know you are not spies, and I will return your brother to you." As they emptied their sacks, behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when they and their father saw their bundles of money, they were afraid. Jacob said, "You have bereaved me of my children. Joseph is no more. Simeon is no more. And now you would take Benjamin. All this has come against me." Then Reuben said, "Kill my 2 sons if I do not bring him back. Put him in my hands, and I will bring him back to you." But Jacob said, "My son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he alone is left. If harm should happen to him on the journey, you would bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to Sheol." The famine was still harsh in the land, and when the grain was gone that they had brought from Egypt, Jacob said, "Go again, buy us a little food." But Judah said, "The man solemnly warned us, 'You shall not see my face unless your brother is with you. If you send our brother with us, we will go. But if you will not send him, we will not go." Jacob's heart was torn, but hunger has no pity, and so he let Benjamin go. "Take him," he said, "and may God Almighty grant you mercy, and bring back your other brother and Benjamin. As for me, if I am bereaved, I am bereaved." So the brothers went down to Egypt again, with Benjamin among them. And when Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the steward, "Bring the men into the house, slaughter an animal, make ready, for they shall dine with me at noon." When Joseph came home, they brought the gift they had with them, and bowed down to the ground before him. He asked about their welfare, and then he lifted his eyes and saw Benjamin. "Is this your youngest brother, of whom you spoke? God be gracious to you, my son." Then Joseph hurried out, for his compassion grew warm, and he sought a place to weep. And he entered his chamber and wept there. Then he washed his face and came out. And he controlled himself and said, "Serve the food." They were seated before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men looked at one another in amazement. Portions were taken to them from Joseph's table, but Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much. And they drank and were merry with him. Then Joseph commanded his steward, "Fill the men's sacks with food, and put each man's money back in his sack. And put my silver cup in the mouth of the sack of the youngest, with his grain money." And he did as Joseph had told him. As morning light came, the men were sent away. But when they had gone only a short distance, Joseph said to his steward, "Follow after them, and when you overtake them, say, 'Why have you repaid evil for good? Why have you stolen my silver cup?'" The steward caught up. The brothers were shocked. "Far be it from your servants to do such a thing. Whichever of us has the cup, let him die, and the rest will become your servants." "Let it be as you say," said the steward. And he searched, beginning with the eldest and ending with the youngest. And the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. Then they tore their clothes. Every man loaded his donkey, and they returned to the city. Joseph was still in his house when they came. Judah and his brothers fell before him. Joseph said, "What deed is this that you have done?" Judah said, "What shall we say? God has found out the guilt of your servants. Behold, we are your servants." But Joseph said, "Far be it from me that I should do so. Only the man in whose hand the cup was found, he shall be my servant. As for the rest, go in peace to your father." Then Judah stepped forward. He told of the father, the boy, the promise, how if Benjamin did not return, it would kill their father. And he said, "Let your servant remain instead of the boy, as a servant to my lord. And let the boy go back with his brothers. How can I go back to my father if the boy is not with me?" Then Joseph could not control himself. Before all who stood by him, "Make everyone go out from me?" So no one stayed with Joseph when he made himself known to his brothers. And he wept aloud, so loud that the Egyptians heard it, and the household of Pharaoh. And Joseph said, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" But his brothers could not answer him, for they were dismayed at his presence. So Joseph said, "Come near to me. I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. Do not be distressed, for God sent me before you to preserve life. God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant on earth, and to keep alive many survivors. So it was not you who sent me here, but God." Then he fell upon his brother Benjamin's neck and wept. And Benjamin wept upon his neck. And he kissed all his brothers and wept upon them. And after that, his brothers talked with him. In the beginning, God created, and at the end, he preserved. From light spoken into darkness, to tears shed into reunion. This was not merely a story of men. This was the heartbeat of heaven echoing through clay. A garden, a fall, a flood, a call, a covenant, a son, a dream, a betrayal, a famine, a hand always unseen, guiding it all. Joseph remained in Egypt. He lived to see Ephraim's children to the third generation. He held the children of the promise on his knees. And when the time drew near for him to die, he gathered his brother's children, and he said, "God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones from here." Not because he doubted Egypt, but because he remembered the promise, the land, the covenant, the God who had walked with Abraham, wrestled with Jacob, and wept with Joseph. And so the book ends, not with death, but with direction. Not with tombs, but with trust. Joseph's bones would one day journey, just as his heart had always done. Because Genesis was never merely a record of what was, but a whisper of what will be. To the wanderer who questions their place, to the dreamer forgotten by the world, to the fallen who wonder if grace remains, this story speaks. It says, "You are not lost, you are being led. Even in pits, he is planning. Even in famine, he is faithful. Even in silence, he is speaking." Thank you for walking this sacred road. From Eden to Egypt, from the dust of man to the breath of promise. This is the book of beginnings, and the beginning of your return, like this story if something ancient stirred in you. Share it with a friend who needs to believe they're not forgotten. Subscribe to join us as we walk into Exodus, the book of fire plagues and a sea split in two. Until then, may the God who formed the stars guide your steps in the dark. And may the voice that spoke still whisper to you, "You are mine."